time did not begin with the machines we made to measure it. Long before pendulums swung and quartz hummed, the ancients watched the heavens, measuring days in the stretch of shadows across cave walls, and years in the slow procession of stars. Overhead, the earth turned, and from that turning came rhythm. The moon waxed and waned, and from that cycle came memory. Seasons whispered change in the rustle of leaves, and humanity, listening, carved meaning into the flow. They built stones to mark solstices, counted moons to plant their seeds. And in the spaces between sunrise and dusk, they began to imagine something unseen, a current moving forward. But this current is slippery. Unlike space, it cannot be seen, it cannot be touched. It leaves behind only echoes, aging skin, wilted petals, worn photographs. To the mind, time feels linear, a string pulled tight from birth to death. But even now, science suggests that this feeling, this flow, may be a fiction. A story told by consciousness to make sense of change. For when motion stops, does time stop with it? And if nothing changes, no breath, no beat, no burn, is time still there, quietly waiting? What if time is not a river, but a silence? Not a thing we move through, but a lens we peer through, bending all of existence into before and after. Clocks did not create time. They only framed it, carved it, caged it, and still, somewhere between ticks, something slips. Time surrounds all things, yet hides behind every shadow. To understand what it is, we must return to the moment it broke, when certainty shattered, and reality bent. The day a quiet mind glimpsed the fabric of the universe, and saw time folding in on itself. There was a time when time was law, not a metaphor, not a mystery, but a steady rhythm that governed stars and souls alike. To Newton, time was the backdrop of the cosmos, unchanging, eternal, flowing forward like the breath of God. He imagined a universe as a great celestial clock, its gears wound tight by divine hands. Its moments ticked forward with perfect regularity. Time, he said, moves uniformly for all things, no matter how fast one travels, or how deep into space one drifts. For centuries, no one dared to disagree. Time was the one thing that never changed. Even as steam-powered ships and rails stitched nations together, we measured every moment with Newton's certainty. But then, in 1905, in a quiet corner of the world, a 26-year-old patent clerk named Albert Einstein sat in a cluttered office in Bern and imagined chasing a beam of light. What he discovered would shatter the clock. Einstein proposed something unthinkable: that time does not move the same for everyone, that it stretches and shrinks depending on motion, that simultaneity, two things happening at once, was not absolute, but relative, tied to the observer's frame. If two stars exploded at the same time in the sky, one person might see them together, another, moving fast enough, might see one before the other. Time had cracked, and with that fracture, the cosmos bent. Special relativity showed that space and time were not separate. They were threads of the same cosmic fabric. Space-time, to move through one was to curve the other. Time slowed down near speed. It dilated near mass. A clock on a spaceship would tick slower than one left behind on Earth, and none of it was fiction. Time, it seemed, was not a universal law, but a local experience. Einstein's equations were precise, testable, and soon proven. Atomic clocks aboard satellites tick differently than those resting on the surface of Earth, not by mistake, but because Earth's gravity bends time ever so slightly. We do not stand on a flat canvas. We float in a warped ocean. But the story didn't stop with Einstein. Just 3 years later, his old professor Hermann Minkowski offered a deeper view. If space and time are united, then all moments must coexist. He envisioned the universe as a block, where past, present, and future are not fleeting moments, but fixed dimensions. Time does not flow in a block universe. It simply is, like pages of a book. All moments exist simultaneously, and consciousness simply flips through them, one by one. This idea is unsettling. It suggests the future is already there, that free will may be an illusion, that the present is not special, only familiar. But others saw beauty in this symmetry. Physicists noticed that most fundamental equations of the universe are time-symmetric. They work the same forward, as they do in reverse. If one were to film the dance of colliding particles and play it backward, the laws would not protest. Only entropy, the measure of disorder, gives time its direction. A glass shatters, but never tatters, not because it can't, but because it is infinitely unlikely and still. Some wondered, if the universe's laws don't prefer a direction, then what is time's arrow? Enter the quantum world, where particles flicker in and out of certainty, where time loses all clarity. In quantum mechanics, outcomes exist in superposition states that are both this and that until measured. But even measurement is suspect. Some interpretations suggest that the act of observing collapses possibility into reality, raising the question, is the flow of time tied to observation? 1. Experiment Wheeler's delayed choice hinted that a decision made in the present can seemingly influence the past. A photon's behavior, wave or particle, isn't determined until after it's already traveled. A crack deepened. Perhaps time does not merely bend, perhaps it never flowed at all. Philosophers began to weigh in. Thinkers like McTaggart argued that time was unreal, a contradiction made of changing illusions. Others, like Julian Barbour, envisioned a cosmos, not in motion, but in stillness. According to Barbour, the universe is a collection of now's static snapshots of reality, each complete and timeless, our sense of movement and illusions stitched together by memory. We don't move through time. We exist in time, each instant eternal in its own frame, each memory a still photograph mistaken for a film. The more closely we inspect the clock, the more it crumbles in our hands. Time, once the most solid of all concepts, now becomes a flickering mirage. It has no single definition in physics. It plays by different rules in relativity and quantum theory. And as we seek to unify these two realms, we are forced to confront an impossible thought. Maybe time is not a property of the universe, but a property of the mind. Time has been bent, broken, and questioned, yet it continues to hold us in its rhythm. But what if this rhythm isn't real? What if what we call time is just change, dressed in memory? To find out, we must dive deeper into realms where time unravels and reality itself begins to blur. Time feels like breath, one moment leading into the next, a sacred rhythm that cradles memory, ambition, decay. But peel back the veil, and time begins to dissolve. To some physicists, time is not a river, but a frozen sea. Each droplet a moment, each wave an illusion. This is the block universe, a cosmos where all moments past and future exist simultaneously, not in sequence, but as coordinates in a four-dimensional space etime. In this vision, there is no becoming, only being, the birth of stars, the fall of empires, the blink of an eye. All there, eternally embedded in the fabric of the whole, nothing flows. The future does not wait. It already is. Einstein himself hinted at this eerie truth. For us physicists, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. But illusions, when deeply held, shape reality. We live as though moments slip through our fingers, as though the present is a flame burning through the film of time. But this flame may be our perception, not physics, because when we step into the quantum realm, time stops making sense. Particles can exist in multiple states at once. A photon doesn't decide whether to behave as a wave or a particle until it's measured. And strangely, that decision can be delayed, even made after the photon has passed its test. In the delayed choice quantum eraser, an experimenter changes whether a photon interferes with itself after it's already made its journey. It is as if the future rewrites the past, as if causality itself is optional. Here. The flow of time is not just distorted, it's irrelevant. And then there's decoherence. The idea that quantum possibilities collapse into classical outcomes as particles interact with their environment, this gives rise to our familiar world. But nowhere in this collapse is a clear direction for time. Entropy, too, offers no answers, only questions. We often say time flows from order to disorder. A dropped glass shatters, heat spreads, stars burn out. The second law of thermodynamics traces this relentless march. But why did the universe begin in such a low entropy state? Why was the past so ordered if the laws of physics don't require This asymmetry, this arrow of time, may not be fundamental at all. It may only arise because we are creatures made of entropy, locked in a perspective where we can only remember the ordered past, not the chaotic future. In other words, we do not observe time, we are time. Our minds are bound to its asymmetry, so we can never see the whole picture. And if that's true, then time as we know it may be nothing more than ignorance. Julian Barbour, a theoretical physicist, goes even further. He argues that time doesn't exist. What we experience as motion is just the mind skipping between different nows. He calls these moments time capsules, complete configurations of the universe, each one timeless, each one existing on its own terms. What we call the past is merely the structure encoded within the present. We never move forward. We only exist here in this moment's illusion of having come from somewhere else. No ticking, no flowing, just a mosaic of instants, scattered like stars in a sky with no beginning or end. It's a beautiful idea and terrifying, because without time, what is change? What is cause? What is choice? Still, others offer a bridge. In loop quantum gravity, time may not be continuous, but granular, built of indivisible moments. Like space itself, time may be quantized, stitched from loops, not lines. At the smallest scales, perhaps time isn't something we pass through, but something that builds the passing itself. If space is not smooth, why should time be? Carlo Rovelli, a pioneer of loop quantum gravity, argues that time emerges from relationships, not from absolute measurements, but from how systems change relative to each other. In this view, there is no universal clock, no single now, only the echo of one thing becoming another time. Then is context, and when that context vanishes, so does time. Nowhere is this more evident than near a black hole dot at the event horizon. Time slows to a crawl. To a distant observer, an object falling in appears to freeze forever, trapped at the edge of darkness to the object itself. It crosses the boundary effortlessly, its clock ticking normally. But beyond the horizon, time ceases to have meaning. Inside, a black hole, the very geometry of space-time collapses. Some models suggest time turns into space, and space into time. It's as if the universe reshuffles its rules in the presence of too much gravity. Even more haunting is the black hole information paradox. When something falls in, is its information truly lost? Or is it preserved in some scrambled imprint on the event horizon? Stephen Hawking once believed the information vanished, but that violated quantum theory and led to decades of fierce debate. Eventually, he conceded. Perhaps the information lingers, etched on the surface of the whole like a cosmic tombstone. If so, the past may never fully disappear. Every moment, every whisper, preserved but inaccessible. A frozen archive outside the reach of time itself. And so we return to the deepest question, is time real or emergent? Some physicists believe time is fundamental, a base ingredient of the universe. Others believe it's emergent, like temperature, rising not from a single particle, but from the collective dance of many. Maybe time only appears when enough complexity arises, when conscious systems like us observe change and mistake it for flow. Maybe time is how the universe dreams of itself. There is no consensus, no final theory, only shadows on the wall, traced by equations that often leave time out entirely. In many of our best theories, time isn't even part of the math. The Willard-DeWitt equation, a candidate for a quantum theory of gravity, describes the universe. TIMELESSLY, no ticking, no unfolding, just a wave function of all possible realities existing all at once. If this is true, then change is not what is, but what seems, a trick of perspective, a dance of awareness through stillness, and perhaps, just perhaps, time is the illusion that keeps reality together. The gentle lie that turns static structure into story, that lets a universe of frozen frames feel like a journey. Time may not flow, but something does. The awareness, the wondering, the feeling that we are becoming, even if nothing truly changes. And if that's the case, then the final question remains. If time is an illusion, what does that make now? A child is born, a mother cries. Somewhere, An old man forgets his name. And across the galaxy, a star flickers, out unseen, unheard. It all feels so real. Moments flowing like water through open hands. First steps, last breaths. A life unfolding across the fabric of time. But if the fabric is still, if the universe is a frozen structure of eternal instants, then none of these things are truly gone. They remain, nestled in space-time, unchanged, untouched, waiting forever in their coordinates. We think we move, we think we age, we think we change, but perhaps only awareness moves, sliding from one still image to another, like a needle tracing the grooves of a record that has already been pressed, and what we call the past is simply the part of the track we've already heard. The future already written, already there, just unheard. It's a comforting horror, or a terrifying comfort, because if time does not flow, then we never really leave the ones we love. The moment you first held someone's hand, the sound of their laugh, the second before goodbye, those moments still exist. As real as the one you're in now, but so does every heartbreak, every war, every extinction. The universe in this light is a museum of every instant. No lights turned off, no memory erased, just halls upon halls of now and memory. Memory may not be a bridge to the past, but a feature of the present, a structure that contains the illusion of having come from somewhere. We don't remember the past. We remember remembering. Each recollection encoded in the configuration of a present brain that feels like it was somewhere else. The arrow of time, the sense of loss, the ache of aging. All these may be side effects of entropy, not evidence. Of time's flow, we suffer through endings, but perhaps, cosmically, nothing ever ends. The last breath is not a disappearance, it is a fixed point in the tapestry, eternally held. So what then is a life? Is it a path carved through change? Or is it a sculpture, a structure of moments, beautiful and complete, but never in motion? Perhaps death is not the vanishing of the self, but the final now in which we are held. Perhaps we never truly leave it. And what we call moving on is merely the world's awareness shifting elsewhere. Like light glancing off a different page, we do not go. We are simply no longer looked at. In this vision, the future has already happened. The universe has already been. We are not shaping reality. We are glimpsing its facets as they unfold inside the theater of our minds. And maybe this is what gives meaning to the illusion, that despite the stillness beneath, we feel motion. We feel love. We feel loss. We feel. So if everything is already happening, if all that was and will be is suspended in a single eternal structure, then where exactly are we? Do we travel through time? Or are we timeless beings, trapped in the illusion of a journey, somewhere? In the silence between seconds, the cosmos holds its breath, and the moment lets go.